Good afternoon. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has visited the Ukrainian city of Mariupol. It's the first time he's ventured inside territory seized by Russian forces in the invasion which began last year. His visit, under cover of darkness, has been fiercely criticised by the exiled council of the southern port city. Mariupol saw some of the fiercest battles of the war so far. Our diplomatic correspondent James Landale reports from Ukraine's capital, Kyiv.
Vladimir Putin arrived in Mariupol by helicopter, at least according to pictures broadcast by Russian state television. Then he drove himself into the city on what's thought to be his first known visit to parts of Ukraine seized by Russian forces after last year's invasion. In the dark streets, amid tight security, he met what were described as local residents who happened to be standing by. They seemed happy to see him. We need to start getting to know each other better, he said. We pray for you, one woman said. Finally you are here. We have waited for you so long. Mr. Putin was invited inside to see one of their homes, seemingly a new apartment. The aim, it would appear, to show a city being rebuilt after last year's devastation. For this is what Mariupol looked like last year after 3 months of Russian bombardment, during which Ukrainian fighters held out at the Azovstal steel plant, their long defence a symbol of Ukrainian resilience. It was here too where Russian forces bombed a maternity hospital, an early alleged war crime, along with a theatre where hundreds of civilians were sheltering and died. The mayor of Mariupol told me how he felt about seeing Mr. Putin in his city.
He is a criminal. He has come in person to see what he has done, because criminals always return to the scene of the crime. He's come to see what he'll be punished for.
Mr. Putin also visited a theatre that had been rebuilt, one that the Russian authorities had planned to use for show trials for some Azovstal defenders. Under bright street lights, he was shown round a playground, only days after he was accused by the International Criminal Court of illegally deporting thousands of children from occupied parts of Ukraine to Russia. And that's the point. This visit will be seen by many as a note of defiance by the Russian leader after those allegations from the International Court. An attempt to show that in at least parts of occupied Ukraine, he wants people to think life is going on as normal. There's some rebuilding taking place, that there is a benefit to this war, when the truth, of course, is that the fighting continues. It has not gone to Mr. Putin's plan, and it is coming at great cost to Russia. Shaun.
James, thank you very much. James Landale there in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. There are fears thousands of jobs in the city of London could be at risk if the troubled bank Credit Suisse is taken over by its Swiss rival UBS. Emergency talks are taking place in Bern. The Bank of England and the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt are said to be monitoring developments from the UK. Our business correspondent Mark Ashdown is here. Mark, how advanced are these negotiations?
Well, pretty advanced. It's been reported in the past hour the UBS has tabled an offer of up to $1 billion. Now, the closing stock price on Friday valued Credit Suisse at more like $8 billion, so that does sound cheap. And I have to say, we've been told they potentially have pushed back on that offer, Credit Suisse. So this is pretty fast moving. We're also hearing the Swiss government, which is overseeing this, may change the law there to fast track this through. Normally, there'd be a protracted period of consultation with shareholders. They get a vote on it, but we're being told we could get an announcement by 5 p.m. UK time today. Now, that shows you the urgency really here. Credit Suisse's troubles have become troubles for the banking world, the financial markets. All sorts of companies saw value wiped off them last week. So they need to give reassurances really before they reopen again the markets tomorrow morning. Now, the deal could mean potentially restructuring Credit Suisse, breaking up domestic and investment operations, could mean job losses too. They employ 50,000 people around the world. About 10,000 between UBS and Credit Suisse are employed in London. So big questions over their futures. We understand the Bank of England and the Chancellor here are monitoring things. I think the hope is swift action will head off fears of a wider banking crisis.
Mark, thank you very much. The Liberal Democrat leader, Sir Ed Davey, says his party would seek a closer economic relationship with Europe to fix Britain's trade if it serves in government. Speaking at the party's spring conference, Sared also pledged to fix the NHS, reform social care and tackle the cost of living crisis.
Yes, we need immediate solutions to the cost of living crisis engulfing so many families and pensioners, like using a proper windfall tax to cut energy bills. But we need far more than that too.
The interim chief executive of the Scottish National Party, Michael Russell, says the party is in a tremendous mess. He replaces Peter Murrell, who's married to Scotland's First Minister, the outgoing party leader Nicola Sturgeon. He resigned yesterday, taking responsibility for misleading journalists who'd asked about the SNP's membership numbers. It lost 30,000 members in just over a year. Mr Russell said trust in the party needs to be rebuilt.
It's a tremendous mess and we have to clear it up, and that's the task that I'm trying to take on in the short term. And the most important thing in that short term, this is about Scotland, not just about the SNP, is that we have a fair electoral process.
Gary Lineker will not present FA Cup quarter-final coverage on BBC One this afternoon after he lost his voice. Lineker returned to presenter duties on Saturday after he was taken off air earlier this month following an impartiality row with the BBC. On social media, he said he'd been silenced by a nasty cold and would not be in Brighton for the match against Grimsby. Now, a charity that specialises in helping British Muslims with financial problems said it's been overwhelmed by people needing assistance. The National Zakat Foundation says it's receiving up to 2,000 applications a month for crisis grants. That's double the figure it was getting a year ago. Michael Buchanan has more.
For a few hours a day, 2-year-old Ali has his house and his mother to himself before his 4 siblings return from school. Berlin is separated from the children's father. The family live off £236 a week. It's not enough, and she's built up large debts trying to raise 5 children alone.
They don't understand. They will ask me everything. Can you buy this? Can you buy that? They have to ask me something they want it. Sometimes I say, tomorrow, we will do tomorrow, and they forget sometimes.
Muslim communities in Britain are disproportionately poorer than the rest of the country. Poverty levels are particularly high among people of Bangladeshi, Pakistani and Black African heritage. This charity distributes zakat, money donated by Muslims to help fellow Muslims in need. Demand for its hardship fund is greater than ever. Some months they're seeing over 2,000 applications.
Zakat especially has always been seen in the Muslim psyche in Britain, certainly. It's for people who are homeless, foodless, in some far-off land. And just to overcome that, tell people it's okay, the community is here for you, zakat is yours as well. That's difficult for us.
We're seeing a record number of people accessing support.
At the East London Mosque, what started as a response to the pandemic has become an ongoing lifeline.
A lot of our families, they live in very overcrowded housing situations. It is a community that has always been in poverty, that's really struggled with employment, and it doesn't really help the fact that things are really expensive.
Fatima is grieving the loss of her daughter. Living with 9 other people is adding to her stress.
It would have been really tough for my son to support the family without the help from the food bank, so this assistance helped me a lot.
For Asiara, her rent's the big problem. It's increased by £200 to £1,500 a month.
I have 2 children who I need to feed, but I can't work. It's so cold and chilly out there, and I have no alternative but to come here.
There's a huge stigma in Muslim communities around asking for help from charities. But when bills are rising this rapidly, faith and family can only go so far. Michael Buchanan, BBC News.
You'll be able to keep in touch with all the day's stories, including those developments involving Credit Suisse on the BBC News channel. The next bulletin here on BBC One is at 5:35. From all of us for now, have a good afternoon.